Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the AFC Newsday channel. Apologies for a few minutes late. We just decided to stop sweating in this absolutely unbearable heat before we get cracking tonight. But Matt, how are you, my friend? Good to see you back again. How are you? You good?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Hot and bothered though with this weather, this heat wave in the UK. Not used to it, fair to say, but pretty good aside from that. How are you doing, mate?
Mate, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. And if anyone watching or listening feels like our fans are too loud in the background, then just comment, Dan, turn your fan down, or Matt, turn your fan down, and we will act accordingly. But a big thank you to everyone that's either watching live or watching back. I can see Mbele's in here already, so great to see you here, my friend. Hope you're well. Matt, let's get straight into it. We've got a special guest on, another special guest on today's show. So let's just get him straight on in here. Rohan is coming onto the show again for the second time. Rohan, how are you? Good?
Oh, great, mate. And you know what? Even better seeing you two now. My day is just, this is the icing on the cake.
Too kind.
Mate, you're so cute.
Buzzing to be here.
Oh, mate, I love you. It's great to have you here, mate. How are you dealing with the heat? Is it hot up? You're just like Loughborough kind of area, aren't you?
Mate, heat, I'm all for that. I love heat, summer vibes, anything. That's a bit of me. So I literally can't complain with it, even though it's a bit love Yen. But even though it's a bit.
He said, "What's with the hair?"
What's with the hair? It's the same, isn't it? But yeah, like the heat, I love it. Like it just, but it kind of like I want to just go on holiday when you see the weather as it is like now, and just but it's I can't complain. I don't like the rain and just the winter in general. So I'll take it.
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. How are you both dealing with the international break? I know it's we've only just got the football season started and we're already taking a break. It's the kind of the first one which frustrates me the most. Do you deal well without football, Rohan, or are you kind of not too fussed about it?
Well, at the moment, work is so busy, so I've kind of needed a little bit of a break. So usually, I don't usually watch much of the games on international duty. I'll try and catch the games where there are Arsenal players playing, and obviously England with the numbers that we've got in now. I'll be tuning into that, but usually I just lose interest when I don't see any of our boys. But sometimes, if there are a couple of good talents for other countries that it's good to just have a look at, I'll keep an eye on them. But all in all, it's just kind of like a decent little break. But it's one of those ones where I think it's good where you can just relax and watch. If you are going to watch the internationals, you're not emotionally invested. Well, I'm not emotionally invested. Whereas when it's the Premier League and what we're looking to achieve, it's just stress, isn't it? So I don't mind it.
Not even with Eddie in the team this year. In the England setup, you're not even.
That's what I'm going to be tuning in, Dan. I'm going to be tuning in. I'm invested in the Arsenal boys, not invested in the result. I don't care about the result. If Eddie Nketiah scores and England gets slapped 9-1, I'll take it.
Oh, fair enough, man. Fair enough. Well, it's great to have you on here. And let's get straight into it. I prepared some slides. We're moving up in the world, so we're gonna, it's not quite FK, but we're getting there slowly. But we prepared some slides for our great guest Rohan on the show today. Boys, are you ready? Should we just get straight into it?
Absolutely.
Right, let's get straight into it. What's that?
Not that picture.
Boys, welcome. We're talking about the season so far. I thought we'd reflect on the campaign we've had so far. Yes, Mbele is showing my excitement with the slides as well. But I thought we'd reflect a little bit on the campaign so far. We had that the win against Nottingham Forest, the impressive, I thought, away win against Crystal Palace, that frustrating 2-2 draw against Fulham, and that crazy game at the Emirates, Arsenal winning 3-1 against Manchester United. Matt, I mean, I'll come to you first, my friend. What are your feelings so far after the first 4 games, and what's it left you kind of after we've had all these questions going into the campaign? Have you got any answers for what you were thinking about before we started?
It's an interesting one. I think one of the biggest things for me so far is I've seen improvement after improvement after improvement, only in the 4 games so far. But I think everyone knows now we're not going to hit the ground running to the same level we did last season. I mean, the points tally we totaled last season in the first 19 games was 50 points. That's absolutely unheard of. So I don't see us replicating that at all. But as I say, the improvement game after game, the Fulham one's a frustrating one for us to drop points in, but it's one of those games where it happens. You don't overthink it. You don't allow it to catch you on, because if we went into United with that feeling and then we drop points against United, which obviously could have happened, which I'm sure we'll discuss in a bit, then, you start panicking a tiny bit, start getting in your own heads, particularly with an international break where there's time to rethink, regather, get together ideas. And if you do lose or drop points to United, that adds a sour taste to it. But I'm pretty happy so far. Obviously, Fulham game was very avoidable, but it is what it is. Games like that just will happen. I thought the Palace game, I think every game so far has been impressive in its own way. I think the Palace game was impressive because we went down to 10 men, which we didn't do at all last season. And I would have liked us to have a bit more of the ball, but we stood completely firm. They couldn't create really any chances. And then when we brought on the likes of Jorginho, Zinchenko, Jakub Kiwior, and so on and so forth, we looked a lot more solid in terms of keeping the ball and retaining possession. So that was promising to see. The Forest game, I think we weren't bad at all per se. I think the scoreline was a bit harsh on us, I feel like. I don't think it really was a 2-1 game, but we go on. And as I say, I think we've progressed from that point. And the Fulham one, as I say, is annoying. And the United one was a massive one, particularly winning by that 2-goal margin, beating United again. So can't complain with that, really. And just can't wait for the international break to be over and Arsenal to be back.
Absolutely, Rohan. I'll ask you if there's a game that stands out for you and those 4. I mean, I'm sure result-wise, the Arsenal Man United one's the obvious one, but is there a game that sticks out for you, to you for a particular reason out of those opening 4 matches?
Yeah, I think emotionally, you'd say the United one, but just to kind of be a little bit different, I'd look at the Palace one, because when you consider the fact that up until the red card, it was a controlled performance, it was domination, and we were in completely control of every action in that game. But then once the red card happened, last season, we didn't even have 1 red card in all competitions. But the season before that, we have developed the reputation of getting players sent off and having ill discipline on paper, even though when you dive into it a little bit deeper, it's not as bad as what it's made out to be. And when we've had that red card happen previously, Mikel he is stylistically different to Pep in the sense of he is happy to control the game without the ball. And deploying that back 5, that 3 in the middle of the park to kind of block off the half spaces and force the opposition wide before you collapse and to try and stop crosses. Then you have your box defenders dominating those duels in the penalty area. And it gave us a lot of success. Now, it's difficult because as a fan, even though we have got a good sample size of us being able to stop teams when we do have a disadvantaged situation of being a man down, it's stress as a fan when you're watching it because you don't have the ball. And you look at the progression that we made last season and you look at as Matt alluded to, in terms of, 50 points in the first 19 games. And I think just quickly on that, this season, we won't hit that same pace because if you go back to last season, we had a settled 11 in pre-season. We knew what we were going to do, and it was consistent in every single game. Whereas this season, we were trying to be a little bit unpredictable. We've actually altered our style, which I think we could probably talk about when we go into the Man United game. And because of that, we've seen slight teething issues and why we are not hitting the same performance levels as last season from the get-go. But I think we'll peak a little bit later on when players have become a little bit more familiar with what we were trying to do this season. But going back to the Palace one quickly, and I just felt that even though we've made so much progression under Mikel Arteta in terms of the play style, in terms of systematic changes, we saw in that game where he is happy to revert back to what he did when he first came into the club. You know, when we were having, we are in a situation where we have to be resolute, we have to defend as a unit and be compact, and we went back to those principles. So that's what stands out to me, in that you look before the red card, it was a very controlled performance. Yes, we didn't create a plethora of chances, but we still carved openings. And then once we got that red card, Mikel Arteta was pragmatic and he was happy to go back to what he did previously. So it's using different principles of the Arteta era. So that's what would stand out for me in that game.
Sure. From the Man United game, Rohan, does it frustrate you that a lot of the talk in the media this week has just been about VAR and officiating, when you feel like Arsenal won that game fair and square? Why is why is the referee and VAR the main talking point when a lot of people just generally, like everyone, like the United fans saying, "Oh, it's offside, it's offside." It's like, it's clearly not, because they've got more angles available to people. Like, does it frustrate you that the narrative is very much the officiating?
It is a little bit frustrating, but at the same time, I kind of like just injecting those tears deep into the veins. I'm like, go on, bring it. I love that content. And it's weird because they're drawing lines from angles that they're not in line with where that situation is. So that's, any science geek will know parallax error. If you're looking at something not straight on, it's gonna look skewed, so you have to look at it straight on. They have more angles, it's offside. And the funny thing is that Arsenal are not operating at 40% of the level they're capable of right now this season. And stylistically, again, we'll probably talk about it, it wasn't my cup of tea in terms of how we played, but we still created the big chances in that game. The Havertz miss, where he obviously just mistimed it, and the Saka moment as well. Those are two big moments and opportunities in that game that came and we didn't take. So when you look at the balance of play, we didn't play very well to the capability of that we were able to do. Well, actually, I'll retract that comment. We played well to the game plan that Mikel Arteta had, but we didn't play to the best of our capabilities, and we still deserve to win that game. And when you look at the numbers, you look at the XG, that backs that up as well. And you look at the territory that we had and the situations we created in the final third, we deserve to win the game. So they can complain as much as they want. We got the points and they didn't. So hold that.
Matt, are you pressing buttons again? Are you pressing my...
Deliberately.
Yeah, well, Yambele's not wrong, is he? But I was going to say that Yambele said that what we were talking about earlier, very much that he's learned that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Very much the right message, I'd say.
100%.
MJ saying last season the electric football was entertaining. Now we're learning efficient football. I do agree with that. I think there was a lack of control in big games in key moments, I think, last season, and it's something that needs to be improved upon. And I don't know about you guys, but Matt, do you think that maybe Thomas Partey now being injured again for more big games is just going to hinder Arsenal a little bit with, because he's so key in certain situations in big games? Do you think it is a negative that Thomas Partey won't be there for, you look at the obvious Man City game, but other games too after the international break?
I think the previous Partey injuries have almost been a bit of a smell the coffee to Arsenal. Don't make it so you solely rely on him. And getting Declan Rice in, who is as good as anyone really around at the minute, is just so paramount. And I see Rohan smiling because Curran's put in the chat just an unnecessary dig at Rohan. But yeah, more onto that topic. I've completely lost my train of thought.
That's Curran for you, isn't he? He's a
Curran.
Partey. Thomas Partey. Go on.
Yeah, I think it is a smell the coffee moment in the sense of he can't be the sole reliability. Like, you can't just put all your reliability in him. He's missed a lot of big games. Obviously, he's had some great big game performances as well over the years, like that City game at home, which we lost, Spurs at home last year, and many others as well. But you can't solely rely on him. And I think it's a moment like this where you're so grateful we do have Declan Rice. Although we always needed that extra midfielder, particularly of that quality. I think you're just so grateful we do have Declan Rice. And yes, it isn't, frustrating that Thomas Partey is out, particularly given he has been playing as a right back. And obviously we know about Jurrien Timber's injury, Kieran Tierney's departure, Nuno Tavares' departure, etc., etc. So we are a bit short in that aspect. So it makes things a bit harder to shuffle the squad around in the defensive areas.
Sure.
But I think it's just important that we're well prepared for injuries, which are almost inevitable in a sense. That obviously Partey, before he joined us, had a really good injury record, but unfortunately that's just been something which has developed in a worse nature pretty much every year, sadly. So I think it's just important to be prepared for that. Obviously a big loss, but also I don't think anyone was too surprised with the injury when it came out. And that's not in a snide way or anything like that. I just think that's kind of how it's been, where injuries have just come out of nowhere with him. And it's been very frustrating. But the fact that we're now prepared for it, I think, is just really, really important.
Definitely. We've got loads of people watching on Twitter at the moment as well. So if you are watching on Twitter or X, please do feel free to follow us at AFC Newsday. At work the other day, we got sent round specific correct terminology to refer to X or Twitter. You don't saying how you make sure you post on X, you make sure you follow us on X and our X feed and those kind of things. It kind of sounds a little bit dodgy in some ways, doesn't it? But yes,
a little bit.
Yeah, what's that the best name to title as social? I'm not sure.
Let's move on swiftly. But yes, you know what I mean. We're calling it Twitter/X. Belly reckons we need to move on from Partey. He's missing too many big games, and he reckons that Arsenal will look to move Thomas Partey on at the end of the season. Interesting. But that Manchester United game stands out for me. Declan Rice is just a machine. A monster. Let's talk about some star performers. I've only got a few. I know there's some more, but these are, I'd say, the three key for me star performers for Arsenal so far this season. We've got Declan Rice, Fabio Vieira, William Saliba. All the images on here are Gessie images, by the way. But these are the main kind of people to me that have stood out so far. Rohan, would you be in agreement with that? Is there an individual you want to pick out that you've been incredibly impressed with?
I think the main one is obviously Declan Rice. For me, he's been man of the match in every single game, in my opinion. I thought he was fantastic against Forest on the I watch every single game back, and when I was watching it back, the Forest game, I thought he was excellent.
2.5 times.
2.5 times.
Yeah, 2.5
times now. Palace, he was fantastic. Fulham, I thought he was incredibly underrated. I think Fulham was his best performance in terms of his ability on the ball and the variety in his passing. And then Man United, he was ridiculously good as well. I think I'd agree with the other two that you've mentioned in different ways. Fabio Vieira as this kind of finisher. And Mikel Arteta has talked about players having specific roles in teams where that's going to be something the game is going to evolve more to. And with the opportunity to make more subs as well, I think that allows certain players to have a role that suits their qualities. And you look at Fabio Vieira, what he did when he came on against Fulham, and you look at what he did to finish the game off against Man United as well, and to completely put it to bed. He's been excellent in that regard. And I think Fabio Vieira, it's not just these performances that he's given, the cameos off the bench, but it's also in pre-season. The Barcelona performance, other cameos that he had. I thought he was pretty impressive against Monaco as well, playing nominally right wing as well. So he's been a really, really promising star this season and pushing for a start potentially. Although I'd say right now, Fabio Vieira is someone who very much suits that game state where we're chasing and we need a goal or to kind of kill the game, like he did against Man United and obviously against Fulham, to chase and to help us deliver that quality. When you talk about final ball, he is the one player in the squad I would rely upon to deliver that with consistent quality. That is his superpower. And Saliba as well he's been ridiculous. I think the one of the big changes that we made this season is that we are not passing as much vertically and taking those levels of risks because we're trying to mitigate the number of transitions and opportunities the team can turn over possession. So we're going through the sides from the get-go. We're emptying the midfield. But despite that, and the fact that we are leaving ourselves a little bit light at the back, we're pushing another man forward situationally. And Saliba's been dominant in the channels. He's been fantastic in terms of giving us that level of assurance. And the other player that I would put in is Eddie Nketiah. My top 3 performers this season so far have been Rice, Nketiah, and Saliba in that order. I think Nketiah has been ridiculous. I think his all-round contribution, it's not just the goals, but it's what he's been doing in terms of his ability to pin centre-backs, to come deep, to show for the ball, and to kind of just turn quickly. You talk about the Havertz penalty that wasn't given. That comes from Eddie Nketiah as well, who is one of the catalysts to creating that situation. So my top 3 performers are Rice, Nketiah, and Saliba, but there are others who deserve a mention, like Fabio Vieira, like you've pointed out there.
Sure, yeah. I think Nketiah and Vieira stood out to me in pre-season very much. Well, from what I saw of pre-season, that they look really sharp.
Yeah.
And I think maybe last campaign, Eddie almost hit a bit of a plateau. And then I know the season before, I thought he looked really sharp as well. And then he's kind of maybe plateaued a little bit last season, although he did do really well for a period of time. But then I guess you could also say not being in the team contributed to that too. But I mean, Vieira and Nketiah have been superb, and they were great. And they were good in the Emirates Cup and the Community Shield when they both came on. That Emirates Cup game, by the way, boys, what a fun game to watch. I really enjoyed that. I remember we were looking, we were all kind of sat near each other, weren't we? And just
it was
I remember
just
when,
too. Yeah,
when
go.
Monaco scored. When Monaco scored the early goal, I just remember looking behind at you, and because we were in behind the goal, and Rohan was sat directly behind us, about 3 rows back. I looked behind me, and Rohan was just sat there like, just did not look happy
Honestly,
at all.
I was fuming. And that game was. Do you know Emirates Cup games? They're weird because it's like there's not that edge because it's a friendly. It's like very family orientated, and it's nice, it's wholesome. But I'm thinking to myself, not too keen on this. So I want a bit of a, that
argy-bargy.
Yeah, a bit of argy-bargy, a bit of oomph. That's what we'll call it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got that in the Community Shield the next game, but even still. Matt, who stood out to you this season?
I think definitely Eddie's the one who, obviously Rohan mentioned at the end. He's the guy who, and I completely agree with Rohan's order as well, of Rice, Eddie, and then Saliba. I think the best way of describing Eddie Nketiah is that moment where Lindelof ended up getting a booking and potentially could have been sent off, because there was absolutely nothing in that. And he made it his own, won the ball and won his team a free kick and got the opposition defender a yellow card, who ended up having to be subbed off in the second half and could have been sent off. So I think that epitomizes him, a player who throws himself and is like a what if, what if this falls to me? What if I can get on the end of this? And that type of opportunistic thinking, optimism and movement is what gets him so many goals and so many opportunities. And I think it contributes with his mentality as well, or coincides with his mentality as well. Yembele asked, do you think Eddie's call-up will raise his level even more? And I think the simple answer to that is absolutely. I think he's so driven. I think the way he's been treated by fans has I've never really been a big fan of it, but he just continues to crack on with it, continues to work really hard, continues to prove people wrong. And the fact, obviously, we spoke about it last time, that he's got an England call-up is brilliant. And there's no doubt in my mind, when he sees an opportunity, he knows exactly how to take it. So definitely Eddie Nketiah. And as I think, Dan, you said, he hit a tiny bit of a plateau at the end of last season, or when he finished his spell in the team last season. And it just shows every time he comes back into the team, he just hits new levels and improves so much. I think not a star performer so far this season, but a massive, massive boost to the team is Gabriel Jesus being back. I think obviously the goal we saw and his all-round cameo.
What a goal.
Stunning. The memes from Dallo are quite funny. But brilliant composure, such a good player, and I just cannot wait to see him back in that team too. And I think what excites me the most about Arsenal now is just the players who are on the bench who, okay, they've had, as Rohan mentioned, like finishers with Fabio Vieira and such. You have players who have contributed to being a finisher in games, but you have so many players who are ridiculously talented and deserve to be starting. So you've got the likes of Fabio Vieira. Reece Nelson's played his first few minutes against United. You've still got Emil Smith-Rowe, who's not played any minutes yet. You've obviously got Eddie Nketiah, if he does, or Gabby Jesus. You've got 2 top nines. You've got Jorginho, who's another really good player to bring into the team. There's so much quality in that team. And that's only touching the side with things, not even mentioning the young players. And just to finish on your question of star performers, I'd like to give a bit of a shout out as well to, Ben White so far this season was brilliant, but had a bit of an off game against United. But I'd like to give a bit of a shout out as well to Gabriel, obviously coming back into the team against Man United. He shows the profile he is and why he's just not irreplaceable per se, but he's just so strong, so good aerially, so dominant. His ball progression's great, and he's such a top player. And what he offers in both boxes is invaluable. And as we kind of alluded to with previous episodes, that when Zinchenko comes back into the team, Gabriel will too, and that seems to be the case. So very exciting stuff.
I think it was a bit of a worry for me. I thought I don't know about you, Rohan, but when I saw that Gabriel was out the side, it didn't actually occur to me that maybe, when Zinchenko comes back, they might all shift along again. But it was a little bit of a worry to me. But do you think now Gabriel's back, he's back, and he's, as Take That say, he's back for good?
Love that.
Brilliant.
It's a frustrating one when he wasn't picked. You know, it was a shock to all of us. You know, when you talk about the Community Shield, Gabriel was excellent
Very
in that
good,
game.
yeah.
You know, and he was easily a top 3-4 performer in that game. And then he's been taken out of the team against Forest, Palace, and Fulham. Now, it's frustrating, but I get it because of the way that Arteta wants the team to play in specific games, and particularly with I've spoken about how we've altered our style this season, where last season, when you talk about how Arsenal's passing, it never changed whether it was winning, losing, or drawing. You know, it was the same passing identity. And that is not optimum for controlling games. And also, we need to be more predictable, and we need to find solutions, sustainable solutions, when Zinchenko is not available. Now, Zinchenko's injury record is poor. You know, it's really bad. So you need to find ways in which you can cope without him. So the way that we've been playing is that the left back, effectively, we shifted, because Thomas Partey, when he was playing at right back, he had a flexible role where when we were building play through the left-hand side, Thomas Partey would move into the single pivot. When we would play through the right-hand side, Thomas Partey would give us width. Now, Partey, in that role, when we're progressing through the right-hand side, is not going to give you the same level of quality as a Ben White. And this is where I think the right-hand side, we have seen slight teething issues, because we have not had that same partnership, that dynamic of Ødegaard, White, and Saka. But when we play through the left, Partey moves into the single pivot. And then that means that the left-sided centre-back needs to be able to give us that unpredictability of an underlap or an overlap. And Gabriel can't do that. Gabriel is a traditional centre-back in that manner. So that's why he's not been playing. And that's why we saw Timber come into the team. That's why we saw Tomiyasu come into the team. Albeit I'm not too keen on Tomiyasu in that role. But relative to what Arteta would want in certain moments, he is a little bit more comfortable in giving you that than Gabriel. But with Zinchenko coming back into the team, my theory was always, when Zinchenko comes back into the team, the dynamics flip. Gabriel will come back into the side, because you need your dominant channel defender on the left-hand side. And that's why we saw him back in the side. And it was interesting, because if you going back to the Thomas Partey thing quickly, Arteta kind of referred to it in his press conference, where if Partey was available, he would have played a different role. I.e., it would have been very similar to the Community Shield. Thomas Partey and Declan Rice and Ødegaard, and then it would have been a case of who starts up top. Whether you go for Havertz, Nketiah, Jesus, that's how he would have played. And Gabriel would have came back into the team regardless. So, but in terms of his performance, the fact that he has not started a single game in the season in the Premier League this season, and to come into a game of that magnitude, where he had different problems to deal with, starting off with a Martial, who I thought was really poor, dealt with him comfortably, and then a Højlund making his debut. How many times have you seen Man United players make their debut against Arsenal and they score? They score.
Script at 1-1.
It always is. And when I saw him, I thought, oh no. And I don't know much about Højlund, but when I saw him, I thought he's rapid and he's very much strong in deeper areas. Gabriel did so well against him. And, you know, that's why for me, in the Man United game, my top 3 performers were Rice, Gabriel, and Martinelli. You know, I thought he was fantastic. So I'm buzzing that he's back into the team. And Everton away, you know, when you talk about away day performances last season, how statistically when the Premier League started, only the Invincibles and one of the season, I think 2001, 2002, where our away record from last season was better than all of those, barring one season, I think the 2001, 2002. Gabriel was instrumental for that. Away day performances, backs against the wall, when you need that solid defender in the box to dominate those duels, he is the one you want. And this is, Yembele says it, if there is a battle that you want when you are effectively under stress, you haven't got the ball, you want Gabriel in your team, because you know he's going to be able to fight for you and he's be able to give you the fine margins that will swing in your favour. So, yeah.
Always up for the fight, Gabriel. And Arsenal are really building a team of big, physical, mobile players that, you know, not only are absolute giants almost, but also are very technical, very good on the ball. And, you know, it's really quite intimidating for a lot of teams to see, I think. And, you know, even the footage that came out after the game of people just comparing the two sides as they came out the tunnel. I mean, I noticed there was some comic effect, because some people were saying, "Oh, if Man United's fans are looking at it, they say they're both the same height." But yeah, Arsenal building a very physical side at the moment, guys. I know it's a difficult subject, and Chelsea fans are waiting to pounce in the wings. But Kai Havertz has had you know, I think it's fair to say he's had a frustrating start to the season. There's been some good bits. There's been some moments that have just made you kind of hold your head in your hands and just go, "Oh, Kai, that wasn't good, was it?" But I mean, what do you think, Rohan? I'll ask you again on this, and Matt, I'll get your take afterwards. But what do you think needs to be the message to Arsenal fans about Kai Havertz, and what have you been encouraged with so far about his game?
I don't think he's been as bad as what has been painted out. It's a case of it's how you view the signing, right? We spent 65 million on Kai Havertz. He's on big wages. So has Kai Havertz delivered 65 million worth of quality? Nowhere near. No, of course not. But there are mitigating circumstances. Kai Havertz has played with a different player in the left-hand side in every single game. You know, when you talk about the first game against Forest, it was Timber, then Tomiyasu, then Kivior, and now Zinchenko. You know, give him time. That's the thing that I'd really push for people. You know, I think Kai Havertz, when we talk about what he's done really well so far, I think off the ball he's been really, really good. I think his ability in the press, his understanding of spacing. In the game against United, it was a very tactical game in terms of what players were having to do off the ball. When Lindelof would have the ball, Kai Havertz would press him, he'd apply pressure, and Ødegaard would sit on Casemiro. When Lisandro would have the ball, Eddie Nketiah would press Lisandro, Kai Havertz would sit on Casemiro. When Casemiro dropped into the back line, Kai Havertz had to retreat. He had to sit with Declan Rice to prevent them from progressing through the lines and to access that right half space, if we're talking about Kai Havertz positioning in there. And his second ball anticipation and the duels that he wins, he's done well in that aspect. Now, on the ball, he hasn't showed the quality. You know, he's been very safe in terms of some of the passes that he's played. Everyone's seen the clip with the Fulham one where he has space to turn, to drive, and you think of someone like an Emil Smith Rowe in that scenario, he is going to do that. And Kai Havertz is effectively not showing you that level of creativity and that innovation. But what Kai Havertz has done really well so far in most of the games is that he is still getting on the end of chances. It's just not coming off at the moment. You know, the Man United one, you can't excuse that. He has to at least test the goalkeeper. But I think give him time. You know, I've said it many times. I like Kai Havertz as an option up top as well. Personally, you know, we saw that game against Man City in the Community Shield. That is something that I would like to see in certain games. But give him time in terms of a natural combination. With Zinchenko in the team now, I think you're going to start to see a little bit more familiarity. He's still making some good off the ball runs to kind of give up Martinelli 1v1s against the fullback. So he is doing good things, but you need a little bit more. You need a little bit more quality, and ultimately, fans are going to look at the price tag and they're going to judge him based on the price tag. And what that means is they're going to judge him in terms of output, contributions, goals, and assists. But he might not always give you that. He might deliver it in a slightly different way, where his output may not be as high as what you want, but he is doing things that the manager wants, like off the ball. So,
sure. I mean, Yem said it. I mean, it's about confidence, and you look at Chelsea as well at the moment, and I think this is just me, but I think it's a little bit hypocritical of Chelsea fans to be going, "Oh, look at Havertz, he's rubbish." But Pochettino, he's a good manager. He needs time. The squad needs time. You know, why can't Kai Havertz have time at Arsenal? Why can't you know what I mean? It's a situation which Arsenal, I just don't think you can win in. Chelsea and rival fans are always going to look down on it, and I think that, you know, Kai Havertz with time, I think at the end of the season, I think that's a good time to judge whether he's, you know, you can get a bearing of the progress he's made throughout the season and maybe have a bit more of a critical eye on it. But for now, I don't have an issue with him being in the side whatsoever. I mean, Matt, you've said your piece on this before. Have you got anything else really to add on the Kai Havertz situation?
I think more of what Rohan's saying, really. I think also, though, what you said about the Chelsea fans being hypocritical, to be honest, I don't really expect them to be sympathetic or anything like that. Obviously, there might be extra agenda risen or whatever, but if you put the shoe on the other foot, that's just how football fans are in the modern day with social media. So it's almost, for me, weirder if Arsenal fans are the ones trying to sell themselves for likes or whatever, or just falling out for the player. Because for me, how I see it is, when you watch Kai Havertz at Chelsea, but you can very easily get agenda-led or narrative-led, because you're watching him, but you're not paying like specific attention to him. You're not really too like clued up on him as a player. When he joins you, you've got a whole new magnifying glass about watching him, because you're watching him in every phase. You're watching specifically how good is the player. And I just don't think you have that same thing when you're a rival player. Like, you just won't watch a rival player with that same kind of attention. And I think there has, as Rohan said, there's a lot of promising signs. For me, I think the biggest thing what I'm seeing right now is he's just a few seconds behind where everything else is right now. So, taking a shot, or I think he's getting into the right movement or the right spaces, with his good movement and such. But I think just the time to when to take a shot, when to drive at the opposition, when to make a pass is just 1 or 2 seconds lacking, which in the Premier League in the modern day is all the difference, really. So I think it's definitely a case of having continuity with, a normal left-hand side, what he's used to, and just giving him time to adapt, not jumping on his back. Obviously, as Rohan said, 65 million and the wages and everything like that, and the way Arsenal are, and he's quite an easy player to scapegoat. That comes with high expectations. And I think also because of the nature of Kai Havertz, him being an easy scapegoat, you no longer watch the team, you watch Kai Havertz through a magnifying glass, almost like watching every move of him. You see, is he doing this right? Is he doing this right? And it's almost an attempt to bash him at times. Don't get me wrong, he's not, delivered to a 65 million level, whatever that means nowadays, because money is just, who knows anymore. But he's obviously not delivered to that level just yet, but we're only a few games into the season. It's important to just give him time, let him bed into the system, and stick with him, really, because you've got nothing to lose there. You've seen a lot of useful qualities he offers. There's no reason to scapegoat him. When you have, Mikel Arteta making interesting analogies with his wife about Kai Havertz after the United game, then I think that's just very telling to stick with him, stick with your player. And for me, just, you always want your players to do well. So give him the time. And as I think you said, Dan, end of the season, then we can see if he's going to be the one. And even 10 to 15 games into the season, you get a better idea. I think international break as well will be potentially a nice, clear time for him away from a lot of agendas or whatever else on social media. So definitely
just take
one
a break from the noise, yeah.
Just got to be patient with, and I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a Kai Havertz goal against Tottenham would slap different.
We need that.
It would be incredible. Kai Havertz scoring in front of the Spurs fans.
The winner against City as well.
Oh, yes, we will be there. Rohan, we will be there.
We will be there.
Boys, I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you've got involved with it, but we're doing a giveaway. So if you're watching on here on YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitter/X, we're doing a giveaway on our Twitter page at AFC Newsday. So you can win any free shirt. Look at that, eh? A free shirt of your choice. Rohan, if you want a free shirt, what would you get? Is there a particular one you go for?
Oh, not too. I'm quite stubborn with shirts, This one I've got.
You like that one, don't you? You're a big fan of that one.
I love this one. I love this one.
Just get another one for you. Why not?
Yeah,
same one again.
But I'm very picky. So some people be like, they don't care what the kit looks like. They're buying the home, the third kit, and the away kit every single season, and they'll buy it for their kids as well. I mean, that's an expensive purchase. But I'd probably get the 2005-2006 away.
Is it? You go a bit retro.
One. Yeah.
What with the O2?
Yeah, with the O2. Nice. Yeah.
It might come off DH gate, so if there's any problems, then don't blame.
Although
no.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Matt, it will be to debunk those false accusations. It will be completely authentic.
I can confirm they are false accusations.
They are.
I can also confirm that was merely a joke. You will get the official thing.
Yeah, Belly said you get a Leicester one, Rohan.
Get out of it, Yem.
We're not going back. We won't go back to the photo.
You need to get Yem on here, boys. You need to get.
We will. 100%. Yem Belly, you are invited next time whenever you're free, my friend. So 100% we'll get you on. But yes, please do get involved with the giveaway. It's super easy. All you need to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment underneath our tweet, which is our pinned tweet on at AFC Newsday, a screenshot of you subscribed, so we can believe you, and then just retweet the post/repost, the X, whatever the form, you know what I mean. So that is how you can get involved and win a free shirt. So make sure you do get involved, please, and then we'll announce the winner next week. And you will get incredible content with this beautiful man, Matt, right here. You'll see his face every week. So I've subscribed, so you know what I mean. Make sure you do too. I wanted to talk about tactics because we've got you on, Rohan. We spoke in the studio podcast about midfield balance, what works best, we felt, before the season, and you said that I mean, and I agreed with you at the time as well that, it's too early to say we've got all these new players and Arsenal need to test a few things. We'll watch a few games in pre-season, then we'll see how it goes through the course of the season. At that time, we're probably hoping that, by now we've got our 3 set players in midfield and they played all the games and it's not changed at all. And it's been the same throughout, but it's been, very different. Thomas Partey's now been injured and Declan Rice has been maybe playing a bit of a deeper role in the last game with Kai Havertz and Ødegaard a little bit further forward in different positions. Talk to me about the midfield, Rohan. What have you made of it so far? What areas of it do you think are maybe weaker when in one formation rather than the other? Just fire away.
Yeah, it's a big topic, isn't it? I think in terms of what we've seen this season, right, we've got 10 points out of 12. Now, on paper, that's pretty good. Against Manchester City, though, it's you still want to be aiming for maximum. But in terms of the performances, there are teething issues. The left-hand side, I'm not happy with so far. I think that we haven't got that combination exactly working right now. I don't think we have the same balance of passers and runners. So we've seen in the game against, Fulham, for example, where the left-hand side, there was an imbalance in terms of both Kai Havertz and Martinelli. They are runners predominantly. Now, both can drop deep and they can link play. But when you talk about their special qualities, Kai Havertz, for me, his superpower is his ability to find space and to arrive in the box. Martinelli as well is someone who wants to play on the last line and he makes runs in behind. In that game, we had Kivior playing on the left-hand side, and Kivior, again, is someone who's still becoming familiar with the demands of the system, playing in different roles as well. And that is leading us to having an imbalance and where we have predominantly forced all our play on the right-hand side. But the problem is that on the right-hand side, we had Thomas Partey playing on paper, well, when we build through the right-hand side, doing what Ben White is supposed to be doing. And then that combination is not as good as what it's been last season. Now, when we had that podcast, I said that the midfield that I wanted to see is Rice, Partey, Ødegaard. I think that gives you the most balance in terms of technical security, in terms of physicality, in terms of flexibility, and in terms of being able to combat any specific game state. Whether you're losing, whether you need to defend deep, Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, as part of that midfield pivot, they're going to give you that security. We saw it against Man City in the Community Shield, but what Arteta is trying to do is he wants to be more unpredictable. He wants to find other ways in which we can play when certain players do get injured, like Thomas Partey, and that's why he's gone for Havertz, Ødegaard and Rice on paper. Now, I think off the ball, we've been really good. In my opinion, I think when you talk about the goals that we've conceded, they've came from our own doing, and that is something that has came from last season as well. And when you talk about statistically in terms of XG against, I think Arsenal are second behind, I think, Man City right now. So that's giving you promising signs. It's just on the ball, the balance isn't there right now. And whether you persist with Kai Havertz and you continue with that, I would, because he's giving you so much quality off the ball that he's kind of doing very similar in that aspect to a Granit Xhaka, not to the same level, but he's still being able to give you that assurance. But on the ball, we've seen what Fabio Vieira has been doing. When you have someone who's a passer, where we're building a lot of play out wide. So the number 8s are coming out wide to receive because teams are compact in the centre and we don't want to lose the ball cheaply. So we're not being as vertical, we're going out wide. And when you talk about Fabio Vieira, when he receives out wide on the left-hand side, you've got a passer there, you've got Martinelli who's a runner. It's a combination that works a little bit better. But then you lose the dual winning ability that Kai Havertz will give you off the ball. So it's the trade-off that you're looking to work with right now. So it's still up in the air. We still haven't seen enough of it. But I just wish we could have seen Declan Rice, Thomas Partey and Ødegaard a little bit more. That was the combination that I really wanted, because I think it gives you the most assurance. And it's less of a transition relative to last season. It's just effectively Declan Rice coming in for Granit Xhaka, and you'd had effectively the same dynamic. But with Zinchenko out for the start of the season, we've had to find different ways as well. So it's just give it time. I think Havertz, Ødegaard and Rice is the one that we're going to persist with. And I think it will get better because of Zinchenko and because of Gabriel, 2 natural left footers behind to give you that ability to break lines. Yeah.
Does it
waffled on a bit there,
Sorry.
but yeah.
No, not at all. Yeah. That's what we're here for, Rohan. We're here for your insight and analysis. Does it worry you that last season you could almost predict what the team sheet was going to be days, weeks before kickoff, barring any injuries? Do you think maybe it's a weakness or a strength because you're more unpredictable, that there's been so many different combinations so far this season?
it's both a strength and a weakness. So the strength-wise is that you know what you're going to get in every single game. There's continuity, there's consistency in terms of team selection and lineup. This season, from the game against Nuremberg all the way to Manchester United, we've changed the team with at least one personnel in every single game. So we've not had the same level of continuity. And that's been a criticism of Arteta, where he has played a set 11 and he's gone with it in every single game. And that's really good in terms of if everyone is fit, brilliant. You saw it the first 19 games of last season, hitting 50 points. The only teams that we dropped points in that period were Southampton, we lost to Man United, and there was the Newcastle draw as well. That was it. But the weakness with persisting with you know what you just said of what the team is going to be in every single game is if you get injuries to certain players and you've been playing a certain way, you've been picking certain personnel, the players who are coming in, they're not warm, they're not as confident, and so you're going to see teething issues. Whereas right now we have gone with different selections, different. We tried for different solutions, and there isn't the same level of fluidity, there isn't the same level of entertaining football, but it is efficient. It's not to the same rate as last season. But what's key is that I think that it's going to allow us to peak later on, and that we will have different ways of playing, and players are going to be more familiar, and we'll be both unpredictable. We'll have more variety to our play, and also we will be in a position where we can mitigate the loss of certain injuries. That was the biggest issue last season, both in terms of the players who came in weren't good enough. I'm not going to name the guy who's left, but that's one, and that was the issue that we had last season, because we had a set 11. We had Zinchenko was out for a fair amount of time as well in certain periods, but the core of the team was always the same. And we didn't know how to react after that. Our pressing quality and our pressing numbers dropped off massively towards the latter stages. I think this season we're going to try and make sure that we can be efficient, but then towards February, March and onwards, we go peak. And that's when the season truly matters. So it's both a strength and a weakness. And right now we are kind of going with a little bit more of the weakness. We're going by with it. And if we can stay efficient, but then it'll become our strength as we go towards the second half and the latter stages.
Interesting. I do find that very interesting. And I miss Granit Xhaka, man. I miss him. If you think if Arsenal could have him, then, all the worries about midfield could just go away, and Declan Rice, I'm not even going to, put it into words, but Granit Xhaka going to Leverkusen, did it have to happen? I would have loved him to have stayed, but there we go. Matt, we're going to just move it on, because I do want to ask a few more questions before we get to it's getting close to 10 o'clock, and I've been getting into Top Boy this evening, lads. I don't know if you've been following.
I need to get into
I've been watching the new series, so I'm a few episodes in, so I don't want it to get too late before I get sucked in again. Lads, Matt, I'll ask you first. Who leads the line after the international break? Because Eddie Nketiah has been full of confidence. He looked really sharp. But Gabriel Jesus, with that really impressive cameo coming on in the Manchester United game. When we come back after the international break, who's in the number 9 position for you?
I think if we continue playing the schedule we've been playing so far, this question would be incredibly hard to answer. But I think because we're playing 2 games a week now, the answer's made up. I don't think you can come at Arteta for starting either of them, because they're so good and they're both in great form. Obviously, Jesus just coming back from an injury, but he'll probably play a bit with Brazil, who I think he's been called up for. And I think when you have 2 games a week, you'll have PSV on the Tuesday or Wednesday at home. You've got Everton away when we come back. Everton away, PSV.
You going? Matt, you're going, aren't you?
Indeed. Should be class.
Nice.
But yeah, within a few day period, you can't complain. And it's so perfect that we have 2 players of that quality where we're not, with the Champions League, you don't tinker around and just mess about and start playing your B team or whatever. But I think what Rohan was saying as well, with how we're changing our way from just being a team, being a club which plays the same 11 every week, is now a lot easier to rotate players in and out. And I think that'll be a lot easier with the Champions League without it having to be, we'll just play a B team. It can be a lot easier to integrate the likes of Vieira and Nelson, Smith Rowe, and then one of Eddie or Jesus. The level will stay incredibly high. So in a nutshell, I'm kind of dodging the answer to this, because I guess you kind of want an answer of who starts against Everton.
Yes, I'm pushing you, Matt. Who starts against Everton?
But I think because of...
No, I am actually pushing you. I want an answer.
Let me talk. Let me talk.
Go on. Okay, land. Go on, land. I'll let you land.
Brilliant, brilliant. But yeah, because it's 2 games a week, I don't think it really matters who
Okay.
does start. But if you want an answer against Everton,
Yeah,
it's so hard because I mean, whatever one I say is fine. So I'm going to stop waffling on and move on to Rohan.
well, I'm going to say Gabriel Jesus. I think Gabriel Jesus will come back in.
Agree.
Do you agree? You agree?
Yeah.
Matt. So Matt, you agree now when someone else has said it? Do you?
Yeah. No, I mean, Jesus is kind of a player where once he's available and somewhat firing, he just goes straight back in. But Eddie's a player who has worked so hard to get to where he is and is also firing on all cylinders. And even the game he didn't start, he came on and made a huge difference. So
yeah,
he's showing no reason to get dropped. But also Jesus is a player where when he's fit,
yeah,
he's Gabriel Jesus. I'll move on to Rohan now.
100%. Well, yeah, sorry, yeah, no, Yambele said he reckons Jesus will come back in, changes the dynamic, and he reckons that Jesus gives more to the team. Rohan, are you in agreement?
Yeah, do you know what? It's so harsh as well because I've said it. Eddie Nketiah for me has been our second best performer this season. But when you talk about the one thing of Eddie Nketiah is that synergy with Martinelli is not there relative to a Gabriel Jesus and a Martinelli. And when I'm talking about our best players, it's our 2 wide players, Martinelli and Saka. I want to get the best out of them. And Jesus is someone who can rotate towards the right. He can rotate towards the left. He gives you so much security in deeper areas in terms of how he rolls centre backs in the turn. And we saw the goal against United. Put Dalot on his backside and finished it. And when you have Gabriel Jesus, the press becomes better, and just generally the all-round performance of the team lifts because he gives you that infectious energy. It's Brazilians; they have this mentality where they just do not die. They will always give it their all. That's kind of a bit of a passion merchant in me, but it does make the difference. You have the quality, you have that passion. Martinelli and Jesus, and I think the left-hand side, which is something that is still not fixed yet. We're still seeing teething issues, as I've alluded to many times already on here. But Jesus and Martinelli, Jesus will help that. He will advocate that. And I think it will give us better symmetry, better quality in both areas. So it will be Jesus for me. It's harsh on Eddie. It really is. But I look at the team dynamic, I look at the balance, and I favour that over individuals personally. So Jesus for sure.
Sure. We've got one more topic I want to talk about, but before that, I do want to say, if anyone's watching live, watching back, if you're watching live on Twitter, please do follow at AFC Newsday. You can see, you can see from wherever you're watching. I'm sure somewhere it says AFC Newsday. Please follow, subscribe. The links to everyone here are in the description somewhere that you can do that to see more of this kind of content. And
follow AFC Newsday. That's the one. That's the
there you
key.
go. There you go. I'll clip that and I'll use that every single episode.
Yeah, use that every single time. Follow AFC Newsday.
Smashing. Thank you, Rohan. And of course, if you're not already, I'm sure a lot of you are, but if you're not following Rohan, then you're at RJ Arsenal blog. Rohan, they've been saying this week, we've been having the conversation, the most underrated accounts on the timeline. And I think you're well rated, but I would also say that, your numbers don't do you justice. I think, you are one of my favorite accounts on the timeline. So,
couldn't agree more.
But I genuinely do think your insight is really, really, really good. And I do enjoy whenever you do your long writes and your long pieces of content. So I look forward to hopefully.
It's been a while as well. It's been a while.
Hopefully, a deep dive at some point soon. We've had Geordie who's got in touch saying, as a neutral, Jesus is technically a better player, but Nketiah would be a good backup, especially with Jesus's injuries. 100%. I mean, Jesus can make that. Sorry, Nketiah can make that impact off the bench as well. So it will be interesting.
Just like he did against Fulham. Sorry to put in there, Dan, but just like
he
did
of course.
Against Fulham. He didn't start the game.
There's more examples. Even the Community Shield.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent when he came on. But yeah, absolutely. One more topic, guys. A bit more wholesome, a bit more enjoyable. Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, nominated for the Ballon d'Or, and Aaron Ramsdale nominated for the Yashin Award. Rohan, just nice to see Arsenal players getting their flowers after all the years of the struggles of not being anywhere near any of this kind of stuff, and now to have 2 players nominated for the Ballon d'Or and Bukayo Saka to win the England Player of the Year. yesterday on his birthday as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, is it nice just to see Arsenal players getting
nice,
that kind of appreciation?
Yeah, it's just nice because it's getting that world recognition, you know. And I think Saka, I think the big moment for Saka actually was that performance against France in the quarterfinals. I think if you looked at all the tabloids and the papers in France, and they were showering him with so much praise, where they obviously, you know, they were buzzing because France won the game, but they were like, Saka's performance there was incredible, and then Southgate takes him off in the second half.
I think L'Equipe, actually, who were
that was the one that
horrible with ratings, gave him, I think, higher than the likes of Mbappe. I think he was top 3 performers.
He made the team of the tournament as well, didn't he? Am I right in saying?
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah, and he was also in the Euros. Him and Sterling were England's best players in that tournament. You know, and this is the thing.
England Player of the Year, by the way, as well.
Back-to-back England. He is England's best player. He is, you know, and I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves in that aspect. But when you talk about Bukayo Saka, his journey is ridiculous, right? He broke into the team as a teenager when the club was in turmoil. There was so much imbalance where he played as a left back, left wing back, right centre mid, left wing, and now he's made it.
He played as a number 10 as well. I remember against Sheffield United. I think it was in the FA Cup.
That was fun.
That was it was the Ramsdale was in goal. That was as well.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
That was
he played everywhere just apart from in goal.
Yeah, exactly. And whilst a teenager, Dan, you know, that's the key. As a teenager, and the consistency he showed there was remarkable. And his game has just evolved season after season after season, where last season he had his most productive campaign in terms of output, the responsibility he takes, the leadership he takes in terms of how he performs. He is just ridiculous. He is the best right-wing talent in world football, hands down. You know, and then you look at Ødegaard, and again, his progression has been phenomenal. When he first came in, a lot of doubts in terms of his ability under pressure against physicality. He's improved massively in that regard. Last season, I think he was so close to breaking the all-time Premier League record for a midfielder in terms of non-penalty goals. And Ramsdale as well, his journey has been fantastic. When you're talking about from the lower leagues to then relegation, battling sides of Sheffield United and Bournemouth, to now the way he is at Arsenal, I think, I don't want to talk about, but there's certain things Ramsdale's done this season I've not been keen on. But his general journey has been fantastic, and it's just really good to see. It's wholesome, isn't it? It's just wholesome content.
Yeah,
we love it.
Absolutely. Matt, you on the same lines? You enjoying seeing the Arsenal players in the headlines?
Yeah, it's brilliant. As Rohan said, you know, so many years of frustrating. Just for one, our players not getting credit, and for two, more to the point, Arsenal just not really being a club, which is up there with the elites, and obviously coming second in the Premier League very easily could have been top. And the seasons these individual players have had, obviously Saka's trajectory, Ødegaard's trajectory I love as well, because when he first came to the club, the loan in itself was like, why are we buying him on a permanent, is what a lot of the consensus was with Arsenal fans. And even early days, Ødegaard, I feel like he'd be quite an easy scapegoat that people would just be like, he's not doing this in this game, or he's not that good, as you said, the physical nature. And for him to now not only be the Arsenal captain, not only be nominated for the Ballon d'Or, and also not only get the goal tally he did last season and the involvement, but he just does, he feels like a captain, you know, obviously not your traditional type, but he leads the team by example. He's always the last person to clap the fans off. He's a top player. He's evolved so much with his game. I remember there was a slight concern that him and Saka would get in the way of each other on the same side. And I mean, he speaks for themselves how well they work together and play together. And the team without Ødegaard is incredibly noticeable. Obviously, you said your piece on Saka, so I'll go more on Martin, a bit on Aaron as well. Of course, Bukayo, just couldn't be happier for the guy. And just such a fantastic player, and only 22 as well, which he turned a few days ago. And also nice to mention, he, I think, has now the most Big Six contributions out of any young player under 22 in the history of the Premier League, I'm pretty sure. Overtook Romelu Lukaku, got to 15. Don't have a graphic of that right now, but Lukaku's
We'll
on
take
14.
your word for it, Matt. We'll take your word for it.
I'm sure you'll see it on the timeline at some point. But yeah, so happy for all of them. But great for Ødegaard to really find his home at Arsenal and be so appreciated, such a fan favourite. And then with Aaron Ramsdale, I mean, his trajectory in football in general is pretty inspirational for players out there as well, or people in general, just working, not from the bottom per se, but working through the tiers of English football. You know, even when he was signed for Arsenal, there was a lot of lot of reaction, which obviously we won't get into. And now for him to get nominated for the Yashin Award was really good to see. And as we said, really, it's just universal praise for our players who are fantastic and are so young, and they're only going to get better, which is even more exciting.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Yembele is just saying, congratulations to the players. He still finds it abysmal that Aaron Ramsdale's nominated, but not England's number one. So he actually calls it a tragedy. So there we go. Rohan, Matt, everyone in the chat, thank you so much for your interactions, involvement tonight. Rohan, thank you so much, my friend. We'll definitely.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
We'll be seeing
subscribe to AFC Newsday.
There we go. That's aggressive.
No, maybe right. Don't click that one. Subscribe, please, to AFC Newsday.
Oh, that was a bit softer. You like that one?
We need the balance, actually.
But I mean, just to say as well, you think that Bukayo Saka and Martin Odegaard could have not been at the club. It could have gone so many different ways when you think that Saka had only a year left on his contract when he had his breakthrough season, and Arsenal could have just not decided to take Martin Odegaard on a permanent after having him on loan, and he could have gone to Real Madrid, and now they're two Arsenal players nominated for the Ballon d'Or. So there you go. Rohan, Matt, thank you so much. There's that make sure to subscribe message. Boys, thank you so much. It's been great tonight. Really appreciated your company. Rohan, what's next for you, my friend, in the world of Arsenal content? Is there anything people can look forward to? Where can people find you as well?
Yeah, you can follow me on the Twitter account, as you already pointed out before. I'll try and write. It's just difficult work. It's that period at the moment where I'm going to be rammed with a lot of stuff until like November. But I'm always with a different knock with Alex, where we do like rewatches and we do a live stream on Sunday as well. And also sometimes my man Faisal as well with Yem and the boys. Love to get on with them as well. But yeah, it's just busy, but I'll try and keep on top of it. Try and tweet as much as I can. But yeah,
sure, of course, a big shout out to the Latte Firm guys, and thank you so much for being in the chat and supporting the channel so much.
Continued support as well was really
man, 100%, and we're just a humble little Arsenal channel trying to find our way through here. But I won't keep you guys any longer.
The next big thing.
Oh, big bold claim.
Rohan, get your stocks in early.
Rohan, Matt, thank you so much. Everyone watching, please make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and we will catch you again very soon.